Hey there. Today I wanted to talk about how can you get your emails opened? That's what we all want, right? We want to get our emails. Something just fell down. All right, well, we'll go without that for now. Acoustical boards. Okay, so how do we get our emails opened? We all do it. We all sit at our desks. We open up our emails, we take our mouse, and we start to click delete, delete, delete. So, how do we get people to pay attention to our emails? That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how do we get people to pay attention to our email marketing campaigns. Now, when you sit down to put together an email marketing campaign, where do you spend most of your time? Do you spend most of your time designing a really good, relevant message that speaks to your recipients so that they take action? Or do you spend a lot of your time concentrating on a good subject line that really describes what your offer or your product is and how it can help them? It's a tricky question. Where should you spend most of your time? A lot of the clients I deal with in companies I talk to, they spend a lot of time working on their email marketing content. They will start with that HTML and they'll do multiple revisions of it to get it just right, where they think it is perfect, that they're going to pull in everyone that they need to respond to their email. After I receive the HTML from them, I'll say, so what would you like to use as the subject line? And they're always kind of flippant, like, oh, we don't care. Just put something together. Just put something together. No, this is where we all have to stop now. You have to stop and think about this for a minute. Just like we do when we come into our emails every morning or during the day, and we quickly are hitting those delete buttons. Why are we hitting the delete button? One, because the subject line is not speaking to us. It's not enticing enough for us to take action to open it. And two, the from line. We don't even know who these people are. So if you end up with a from line, you don't know who they are, and then you end up with a subject line that's generic or not enticing enough for you to take action right then and there, then you've wasted all the time that you spent trying to create that great email content. So today, I wanted to give you some tips on how to create effective subject lines. And this is where you should spend a lot of your time is on the subject line. I even tell clients 80% of your time should be on the subject line because if your subject line is not enticing enough, they're not going to open up the email. So here are some tips for your subject line. Keep your subject line short and sweet. Get to the point. Have your most important words at the beginning of the subject line. If you don't have them at the beginning, they may not see it because you don't know where they might cut it off, or you've lost them all the way already at the beginning. So have those important words at the beginning. A question is always good in the subject line, especially if it's a question that is direct and pertains to that person or their industry that they're in. Maybe it's a challenge they're having. Are you having difficulties finding email lists or email lists for your target audience? Or are you having problems finding equipment for your facility? A question like that is what can definitely pull them in. Put some urgency in your subject line. Putting a date in the subject line has shown to be very responsive. So if you have a time-sensitive offer, make sure they know they need to take action now. And a date is also good just because it does force them to take action. Only 20 seats left at this webinar on blah, 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 whatever it might be. So you're going to have urgency there. Be unique, though, with your subject line. Don't try to be tricky or fancy or sound like somebody else. Make sure that your subject line reflects your brand. For instance, some people talk about putting emojis in their subject line. And for some offers, that might work. But for me, if I put a emoji in my subject line, it really wouldn't work with the B2B companies that we deal with because they have such expensive offers. And usually, serious manufacturing, industrial, top executives, emojis is not the right place. So don't try to be tricky or funny or use any of the shiny new things people are saying. Think about your brand and make sure your subject line reflects your specific brand. Personalization. There's another one. Personalization, I love, but it has to be done correctly. Boy, can it backfire if the personalization is not correct. You have the wrong person's name. You have the wrong company name. Maybe you don't have the company name. Maybe you didn't put the space after the personalization token so that it's like Donna, but it's right next to the next word. There's no space in between. So make sure if you're going to use personalization, make sure you're doing it accurately. Otherwise, it could backfire on you. All of these things are a representation of your company, of your brand. You must state the quality of your brand and make sure that your subject line, like I said before, speaks your unique voice, but it also shows how professional you are. Another thing I've seen work quite well on subject line is don't capitalize every single letter. That almost screams like you're yelling at them or something. And even when you capitalize the first letter of each word, that doesn't make it feel so genuine or personal. Sometimes it's better just to capitalize that very first letter of the sentence, of the subject line. So these are some tips for you to get a more effective subject line so that people open your emails. But also, let's not forget the from line. From lines are important also because you want to pick a from line that the most or the largest group of your audience would recognize. So is it an individual name? Do you have a key executive that has a huge following? And so you should use their name in the from line. Or is your company so well known that that should be in the from line? There's so many things that you need to test with marketing. Marketing is all about testing. We all know that. Testing, testing, testing. So take your audience, break them out into small batches, and test them. But only test one of those things. For instance, one day test the subject lines out with having the from line being constant. Then maybe have the subject line be constant and test out different from lines. You can't switch them both, otherwise you don't know which one is responding well for you. But test the waters, see what is best for your audience. I'll talk about this over and over. Your company is unique. Your emails have to be unique for your company, your brand, and what you're offering. And your messaging has to reflect that too. But your audience is different than everybody else's audience. And so you have to see what responds best to them. I could sit here and say, well, this is what worked best for us, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So you've got to test the waters, test those subject lines, test your from lines, and find out what is best to get people to pay attention to your emails, open them up, and take action. Try this out today. Start thinking about those subject lines and let me know how it goes. Hit subscribe below so that you can subscribe to the YouTube channel to find out when our next tip is up. And if you have any questions for me, please feel free to email me at dpeterson, Peterson, at worldinnovators.com. Talk to you later and have a great night. Bye.